Oh, there we go. That's right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are back. Welcome back. Okay, so this is again, we are live from Occupy City Hall. We gonna keep this running as long as this mine? Yeah, this mine. We gonna keep this running as long as they got this 814, 815 day thing going. We want to make sure we are accurately giving representation to all of the realities of the 815. So this is going to fall in line of the same manner of type of segment as we just had previously with the white nationalists, white supremacists, white vigilante, white terrorist conversation, where we are going to, and this is going to be a little more complicated. So I think what we'll do with this is we're going to do definitions for right now. Before we start attributing people into these categories, let's do definitions. So we're going to come up with some type of definition, and it's going to be flexible. It's going to be fluid. It don't have to be absolute. Some type of definition for all of these different things. So let's begin with Uncle Tom. Okay, let's write them all out first. We got Uncle Tom. We got sellout, which is different from Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom sellout, house Negro, and Coon, which I think that's probably the most complicated one. I think that's more activities. I think Coon is more of an activity, like Coon activity. But anyways, let's go with Uncle Tom. Let's do some, and everybody has different origin stories. I don't know if you ever seen X-Men doing like origin stories, and they just doing the power origins. Sometimes when you start speaking on police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice, and all the implications it has, you got to do some origin stories. So let's do an origin story into it die. Yeah. Here, you know where we plug this stuff up at? Where you plug this stuff up back in that corner? But you can just plug the battery pack up, so that way you don't got to worry about somebody trying to take your phone. But so we're gonna do an origin story on Uncle Tom real quick. Now again, everybody has different definitions for things, and we just gonna do a work. This is just gonna be a working. So when Uncle Tom definition, let's see what Google tell you. Uncle Tom definition. Google says, a black man considered to be excessively obedient or servile to white people. I think that's a good stance. A person regarded as betraying their cultural social allegiance. He called moderates Uncle Toms was an example for a sentence. So Uncle Tom, a black man considered to be excessively obedient or servile to white people. Now, I've never read Uncle Tom's Cabin. Now, I won't lie, I'm not going to, it's not something I've read in my readings, some of my heavy reading I've been doing lately. I haven't dived into it. But let's click on the Wikipedia. I know somebody's yelling like, oh, don't go to Wikipedia, that. We just going through and just trying to get some in general things before I say some of my beliefs about what Uncle Tom is. And then we going to categorize this Uncle Tom political term, son. So Uncle Tom is the title character of Harriet Beecher Stowe's 1852 novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. The character was seen by many readers as a groundbreaking, humanistic portrayal of a slave, one who uses non-resistance and gives his life to protect others who have escaped from slavery. However, the character also be safe. However, the character also came to be seen, especially based on his portrayal in pro-compassion dramatizations, as inexplicably kind to white slaveholders. This led to the use of Uncle Tom, sometimes shortened to just a Tom, as a derogatory epithet for an exceedingly subservient person or house Negro. And so, even within here, we have them referring to house Negro. So house slave was brought up real quick. Okay, particularly one aware of their own lower racial class status. Okay, again, I like how they differentiate it. See, now we getting into a real place. As a derogatory epithet for an exceedingly subservient person or house Negro, particularly one aware of their own lower class racial status. So not someone that's ignorant. See, that's one of the differences between a Uncle Tom and a house Negro. You see, because Uncle Tom is a house Negro, but he's a different layer. He like the Uber house Negro. So let's now right there. See, now we got the conversation. See, now we got a critical conversation started for real. So now where we got Uncle Tom and house Negro at, what should be established is that Uncle Tom is in fact a house Negro. Uncle Tom is a house Negro. He has the characteristics, and Uncle Tom has the characteristics of a house Negro. Has the characteristics of a house Negro. However, he is cognizant. He's conscious. He understands. He understands the implications of his actions. The Uncle Tom understands he's being subservient in a hope to continue to survive, in a hope to find a way to prosper, or in a hope to find a way to profit off of his lower class. And he's okay with that. So that's where we at when we talk about Uncle Tom. So Uncle Tom has the characteristics of a house Negro. However, he is conscious of not only his class and his lower class or his lower caste because of race, but he's also conscious of the implications of his actions. All right. Because if I don't write it down now, I'm gonna forget. He's conscious of his actions and his his actions and his class status, his caste status, really. Right now, so right in his caste status, and does these? They don't work. They shut them off when we started using them. Yeah, but maybe they might be back on. You could try. I don't know, but they did shut them off when we started using them. Yes, and does these actions to? Okay. So it does these actions to profit. Okay, to profit. All right, we can expound on that at a different time. Again, we just want to get a few working definitions. Now we got the next thing that we have here is sellout, but I think what we should go to next is house Negro, because it was brought up in us beginning our definition of Uncle Tom and our working around of Uncle Tom. So on house slave, house Negro, we're gonna do some reading for this one. Again, this is Wikipedia. At different times, we'll continue these and we'll go deeper and have deeper critical conversations about these subjects, and we'll expound on the definitions and things of that, or expound on some of this. But right now, let's just start with something just to get the conversation started. In many households, treatment of slaves vary with the slave's skin color. Dark-skinned slaves worked in the fields, while lighter-skinned house servants had comparatively better clothing, food, and housing. Referred to as, quote, house Negroes, end quote, they had a higher status and standard of living than a field slave or, quote, field Negro, end quote, who worked outdoors, often in harsh conditions. As in President Thomas Jefferson's household, the presence of lighter-skinned slaves as household servants was not merely an issue of skin color. Sometimes planters used mixed-race slaves as house servants or favored artisans because they were their own children or other relatives. Several of Jefferson's household slaves were possibly children of his father-in-law, John Wells, and the enslaved woman, Betty Hemmings, who were inherited by Jefferson's wife upon her father's death. In turn, Jefferson himself raped Betty and John Wayne's daughter, Sally Hemmings, the half-sister to Thomas Jefferson's wife. The Hemmings children grew up to be closely involved in Jefferson's household staff activities. 2 sons trained as carpenters. 3 of his 4 surviving mixed-race children with Sally Hemmings passed into white society as adults. Thomas Jefferson. That's Thomas Jefferson. It's a school in this city named after this man. It's a school in this. Think about that. It's a school in this city named after this man. This common knowledge that you can find about him. But one of the things I want to point out here is that all of these children that he fathered were house Negroes. Their skin status, their skin color, or who they were related to, or who some privilege that they were born with, put them in a position in which just by sheer existence they were deemed to be more important or of more value than somebody who was darker than them. Which is a distinction to be had, because that is something that you can opt out of. Now, during the times that we're speaking about, that would be a much more complex concept of opting out of that. But one of the things that has happened regularly is there have been black people who are of mixed race, or black people who have grown up with privilege that is usually reserved for white people, who once they have become conscious of these things, once they become conscious of these racial injustice issues, conscious of that privilege that they have, they fight to break other people from having that privilege. They fight to try to expand that privilege to others. They fight for equity. They begin to fight for equity for black people and equity for oppressed people and exploited people and communities of color. And once you get into a place of doing that, you are no longer the house Negro. Because if you were to extrapolate that symbolism out to slave times, if you was in the house and you was just abiding by the rules of the house and cooking when it was time to cook and cleaning when it was time to clean, and yes, massa, oh, I'll be right on him, massa. Oh, yeah. Is that tea not too hot for you, is it, massa? Oh, you know, them film Negroes been talking about, Nat Turner and them been talking about doing something, massa. As long as you was doing that, you continue to have your superior class status. You continue to be the house Negro and to have that role. But the moment that you began to plot with Nat Turner, the moment you began to maybe put some piss in their tea, or try to poison their tea, or the moment that you begin to learn how to read in an effort to better yourself, the moment you begin to understand that as a human being you were being having rights stripped from you unjustly, and you begin to act on that consciousness that you have and act on those beliefs that you have, because at some point that you all become conscious of it. All the house Negroes become conscious of the fact that they're in their house in some form of a manner, in some manner or another. And then some of them, which is the Uncle Tom, is once they become conscious of it, they use it to benefit. They use it to be subservient. They use it to be next to the white man, to be next to the privileged group, so they can hope some of that privilege rub off on them and their black skin start to get vitiligo. But anyways, the next now again, that's just the separation between house Negro and Uncle Tom. But going back to house Negro, if you begin to act on this injustice, you will be tossed to the side. If you weren't killed, you'd be thrown in the field. If you wasn't killed, you'd be in the field. That's what would happen. And so a house Negro a house Negro continues to exist within it. The moment that you struggle against it, that is the moment that you are no longer house Negro. Let's continue to go through some of these things. The term, quote, house Negro, end quote, appears in print by 1711. On May 21st of that year, the Boston Newsletter ran an advertisement that a, quote, young house Negro wench of 19 years of age that speaks English to be sold, end quote. In a 1771 letter, a Maryland slave owner compared the lives of his slaves to those of, quote, house Negroes, end quote, and plantation Negroes, in quotations, refuting an accusation that his slaves were poorly fed by saying they were fed as well as, quote, plantation Negroes, end quote, though not as well as the, quote, house Negroes, end quote. In 1807, a report of the African Institution of London described an incident in which an old woman was required to work in the field after she refused to throw salt water and gunpowder on the wounds of other slaves who had been whipped. According to the report, she had previously enjoyed a favored status as, quote, a house Negro, end quote. And again, I hadn't even read this, but there we go. They used the example of somebody. She was a house Negro. She got the benefits of being a house Negro. She got the benefits of being next to white people and the privilege that came with that. She was cognizant of it. She understood it. She knew it. And then a moment came in which she was asked to play the role of the Uncle Tom. and she said no to playing the role of the Uncle Tom. And in that moment, she was relegated back to the field. She was relegated to being a field Negro. Margaret Mitchell made use of the term to describe a slave named Pork in her famed 1936 Southern plantation fiction, Going with the Wind. African-American activist Malcolm X, rest in power, commented on the cultural connotations and consequences of the term in his 1963 speech, quote, Message to the Grassroots, end quote, wherein he explained that during slavery there were two types of slaves, quote, house Negroes, end quote, who worked in the master's house, and, quote, field Negroes, end quote, who performed outdoor manual labor. He characterized the house Negro as having a better life than the field Negro, and thus being unwilling to leave the plantation and potentially more likely to support existing power structures that favored whites over blacks. Malcolm X identified with the field Negro. And so there we go. We got some working concepts for house Negro. So I don't want to be. We're not going to engage in colorism, and so we're not going to have anything to do with any type of colorism to have anything part of how we are defining house Negro. House Negro for us, and for again, this is a fluid definition. This is we're working through it. House Negro is someone who through privilege, whether that be who through privilege. Come on, we working. And again, whether this privilege be a financial privilege, educational privilege, economic privilege, which I guess is sort of financial, career privilege. Anybody who through privilege is I don't know, is put above, is put at the top of a caste system, who through privilege is put at the top of a caste system, through privilege is to the top of a caste system, and whose ideology and actions do not aim to break that caste system. Do not aim to break that caste system. And again, we fluid. We do it. This is real fluid. We real fluid. We gonna do these multiple times. Talk with other people. But again, we are. For anybody who may be watching this, wondering what's going on, it is 815 day weekend, or which is again, I don't know how a day can be a weekend at the same time. A lot of hypocrisies in this city. One of the most hypocritical city in Illinois, per capita. Again, per capita. We are out here, and as long as they're going to have this 815 day event where they're pretending as if this city is all unified and gentrified and all hunky-dory, we're going to be out here with this pamphlet of people who've been murdered in this city, in the 815, by state-sanctioned violence in front of this memorial for Lil Mike Sago. This sun's starting to do what it needs to do, man. We might be able to move over here and get in front of Lil Mike a little bit more. We're going to be out here going live and speaking on the issues and giving voice to the issues. So we got these two. We got Uncle Tom laid out. We got House Negro laid out a little bit. Let's go to Sellout, because I think Sellout is one of the ones that's the most interesting. One of the most interesting. I'm finna have to roll me another blunt up in this motherfucker. I'm gonna have to do it. Okay, so we got Sellout. Sellout is let's see when we type in Sellout. Let's do the same thing we just did for the last two. Let's see what Google gives us. Google been in this bag a little bit for these two. Let's see what Google gives us. Sellout definition. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's gonna be a couple definitions. Sellout. Noun, 1. The selling of an entire stock of something, especially tickets for an entertainment or sports event. I don't think that's really what we're looking for, but it has some kind of relevancy. 2, a sale of a business or company. Okay, but hold on. We got another one here. This is Wikipedia. Okay, so that was the dictionary they gave us. I don't think the dictionary really know what type of time we on. Okay. It says at the top, though, this article has multiple issues. This article needs additional citation. Okay, that's all types of shit. Okay, anyway. Quote, selling out or, quote, sold out, end quote, in the past tense is a common expression for the compromising of a person's integrity, morality, authenticity, or principles in exchange for personal gain such as money. Damn. That's the first one that we read. Or the first line, I feel like they hit that shit right on the money. That was like one of them Hawkeye arrow shots. That right on the money. I'm gonna read through that again. Selling out or sold out in the past tense is a common expression for the compromising of a person's integrity, morality, authenticity, or principles in exchange for personal gain, such as money. In terms of music or art, selling out is associated with attempts to tailor material to a mainstream or commercial audience, which I think does play into our definition a little bit. We'll double back. For example, a musician who alters their material to encompass a wider audience and in turn generates greater revenue may be labeled by fans who predate the change as a sellout. Sellout also refers to someone who gives up or disregards someone or something for something or other person. And so the first sentence was on the money. The other ones were sort of a little iffy. But when we get to a place of compromising a person's integrity, morality, authenticity, or principles, those 4 words are key in all of these definitions. Because an Uncle Tom is not necessarily a sellout. Same thing, a house Negro is not necessarily a sellout. To compromise your integrity means that at some point you stop being that. At some point you were in the field. If you have to compromise your morality, that means at some point you was in the field. If you have to compromise your authenticity, it means at some point the authentic you was in the field. If you have to compromise your principles, it means that at some point you were being in the field had guided your principles. And so that is the distinction that we have in this political term that we did not have in the prior political terms. When we go back to House Negro and Uncle Tom, Uncle Tom is a House Negro. He's an Uber House Negro. He's the if I don't know anybody who watched Dragon Ball Z, Frieza would say, "You haven't even seen my final form." Uncle Tom is the final form of the House Negro, the final form of the Coon. And again, Coon is I shouldn't say this. The final form of the House Negro. So Uncle Tom, we went with Uncle Tom has the characteristics of a House Negro. However, he is conscious of his actions and his caste status and does these actions to profit from that status. And then House Negro was someone who through privilege is put at the top of a caste system and whose ideology and actions do not aim to break that caste system. And now a sellout is someone who compromise. That shit was perfect. What they said was perfect. For beginning, we can go and compromise. I guess somebody gonna say we'll alter the sentence. I don't want nobody hit us with no plagiarism. We'll alter the sentence. People like they do with plagiarism and shit. Okay, sellout is someone who compromises their integrity, morality, authenticity, or principles in exchange for personal gain, such as money. Yeah, we're going to expand on that at a different time, but that starts us out right. And so now let's get into Coon, though. Let's get into Coon. Let's see what they got for Coon. It's going to be interesting. Oh, that's Shay getting right. We gonna move a little bit in a second. After we finish this sellout, we gonna move this segment over. Okay, so where we at? Okay, Coon. Let's look up the definition of Coon. We gonna see what it say. Coon definition in Spanish. Google been doing us all right. Oh, raccoon popped up first. Oh no, that's not what I'm looking for. I probably got to do like a Urban Dictionary. I think I got to do Urban Dictionary. I don't think regular dictionary gonna work. Urban Dictionary. Okay. Urban Dictionary. Okay, coon is basic. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. This work. This gonna work. Okay. Damn, that's a nuts ass first. That's a nuts way to start it. Urban Dictionary so crazy. All right, we gonna read this. I guess I don't know. An insulting term used by both races. I agree with that. When used by whites, it translates to, quote, nigger, end quote. I would agree with that, too. Oh, damn. Do I agree with that? Nah, I don't agree. No, I don't. I think that I think white people may use it in that manner, but I don't think that's. Anyways. When used by blacks, it's describing an Uncle Ruckus type character. Facts. Yeah, that is the difference. Okay. We get into a real place. This is start. Okay, here we go. We get into a real place. A black person who is ignorant to white discrimination and unknowingly suffers with self-hatred. Oh, I do think that a coon can be conscious or unconscious. I do think that that's true. So, yeah, that's true. I agree with that. This next one, I'm just gonna excerpt out. I'm not gonna mention this next one. But then they have here in a sentence, quote, Samuel L. Jackson played a coon in the movie Django, end quote. That's a fact. That is 100% true. So I guess is a coon the ultimate? Is a coon the final form of a house Negro then? When you think about it, because if in the coon you have the coon is successfully brainwashed. That's the difference, I believe, between a house Negro and an Uncle Tom. Is a coon has been successfully brainwashed. Oh, and then they got this example. Great. The only black newscaster for Fox didn't find anything wrong with the white policeman only arresting the black kids in a group of black and white kids. What a coon. Perfect sentence. Okay, Urban Dictionary has got us to a real place. To a real place, to a good place. Oh, we got something here, Marion. Okay. The Webster, the dictionary got in this? No, they don't got shit. Okay, so this is one we're gonna have to do our most working with. Coon. A coon. You got it. Now the question is, can you be a sellout and a coon? I know you can't. You can sell out. See, that's the difference about being a sellout. Is selling out does not necessarily make you become Uncle Tom or a house Negro. You are selling out. Selling out is like in an effort to appease the white people, not necessarily in an effort to become subservient to the white people. And it is important to have that specificity. So when we get to coon, I do not believe that. I believe a sellout is one of these things that is the most unique. A coon is a house Negro, and a coon is an Uncle Tom. But the difference between the house Negro and the coon is that the house Negro has been successfully brainwashed and adapted into the caste system. The difference between the coon and the Uncle Tom is that the Uncle Tom is conscious. It's conscious. The Uncle Tom is, if it's subconscious, if it is happening subconsciously, depending on the severity, I guess it's happening. I gotta get a Band-Aid on that shit. Depending on the severity in which it's happening, I guess it could be considered coon activity. But I think that for right now, we're going to stand on the fact that an Uncle Tom is conscious of these actions. But the coon can be unconscious. The coon that is what successful brainwashing does. It makes you you become unconscious, subconscious. It's embedded into your subconscious. You are unconscious to the ideology and the actions. And so what we are going to say is a coon has the characteristics of the house Negro and the Uncle Tom, with the difference being the coon is the successful. I don't want to say this. This is a little tricky. This one a little tricky. But we got to get it. We got to get some type of sentence down so we can move on. Coon. That's your shoulders off. Coon is the successful brainwashing. Successful brainwashing of the Uncle Tom, of the house Negro. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to get new batteries. It's the successful brainwashing of the house Negro. Oh yeah, I ain't gonna be able to take that. That shit crazy. All right, so there we go. I think this is a working. We in a good place. We in a working place. We got a document, something set up. We in a place we working. This was good. The batteries is getting low on this. Continuing to try to get this sentence to be a little bit better. Not really worth the people having to watch the end of this with these fucking scratchy shit the batteries do. Is it doing it? Yeah, it's doing it. All right, so I'm gonna end this live, and then we gonna reposition to get closer to Lil Mike Sago and set everything up, and we'll have a new topic that we're gonna talk through, and we're gonna continue. So we outside.